Ladies and gentlemen, we are in 2024 and the trend of sudden cardiac arrests and heart attacks, well, it continues. People with absolutely no prior warning or symptoms are simply collapsing, doing harmless exercises or activities. Last year, people suffered heart attacks during workout while doing dandiya as well. This time we are seeing a death on a cricket pitch, and it is on camera. Just take a look at the video that we have got. This has left everyone in disbelief. What you're seeing is a Noida techie, all of 34 years old, Vikas Negi, I beg your pardon, suffering a heart attack and then collapsing on a pitch while he's running between wickets. Just take a look. That video is there. He's 34 years old. He's fit. He has no prior conditions. There are no comorbidities. And this is what happens to this young man. This happened on January 6th. The pictures are on your screens. He's a 34-year-old, Vikas Negi, seen collapsing on the pitch as he goes for a run. He was, of course, rushed to a nearby hospital where he was declared dead by doctors. What happened on your screens, once again, putting the spotlight on heart attacks and how this silent epidemic continues to target the young. It used to be, heart diseases used to be an old people's problem. It's now a young people problem as well. Just take a look at some numbers as you see these rather shocking and horrifying pictures on your screens. According to NCRB data, sudden deaths in 2022 increased by around 12%. Sudden deaths are identified as unexpected fatalities that occur within minutes from any cause other than violence. And to our surprise, nearly 57 of these deaths were because of heart attacks. In fact, the NCRB report also says that 28,000 of those killed due to heart attacks were males, and 40 has now become the new 70, which means cardiac arrests and heart attacks are coming for the young. The bigger question is, what is ailing young hearts? We know it: stress, lifestyle, COVID. I'm putting some questions to my guest who's joining us this evening. Dr. Sanjay Sood is the CMO at Safdarjung Hospital, joining us on the broadcast. And Dr. Deepak Natarajan is the chairman, cardiology at the Park Group of Hospitals. Thank you very much, both of you. I know your time is precious, so we appreciate your time here on Mirror Now. Dr. Natarajan, I'm going to come to you. How do you explain what happened to this young man, all of 34 years old? There is a video available. Just look at him. He's running between the wickets. He slows down, so clearly something is coming, and then he simply collapses.
Okay, your question is justified, and the answer could be slightly complex. The situation is not as simple as you believe it is, because excess mortality is being seen all over the world. A classic example would be Singapore. Singapore had an excess mortality last year of about 40%. It was 50% in 2022. And as recently as October 2023, it was about 30%. Now, what is excess mortality? Excess mortality means that you have an average figure between 2015 and 2019. That's about 5 years. So we find that more people are dying now. And crucially, these people are youngish. They are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. So what is happening? The most important thing is, why have they suddenly started to occur? They have begun in the year 21, 22, 23. Now, this is the time frame when you rolled out your vaccines all over the world. Now, this angle you must accept, you must ponder over this, you must keep an open mind. There is tremendous data, there is massive data that vaccinations, especially the gene-based vaccines such as the messenger RNA vaccines and the adenovirus vector vaccines, cause what is called myocarditis, which in simple English is inflammation of the heart. We have autopsy studies, we have autopsies, numerous autopsy studies, and autopsies are the final diagnosis, and they have confirmed that these people are dying because of myocarditis. Apart from that, we have again data. We have data from Thailand that in young children, the incidence was 2.3%. We have data from Switzerland that the incidence was 2.8%. I'm talking of myocarditis, which is diagnosed by symptoms of, let's say, chest pain, palpitations, shortness of breath, and there may or may not be ECG changes, there may or may not be troponin changes, there may or may not be echo changes, but you confirm the situation by a cardiac MRI. I'm sorry I'm giving you a prolonged lecture, but this has to be kept in mind. Now we come to this young chap. You have stated that this person was did not have any previous disease. He is playing cricket, so obviously the guy is reasonably fit, or definitely must have been very fit. Despite that, we see a sudden collapse. The sudden collapse cannot be because of a brain tumor, cannot be because of a lung disease. It has to be a cardiac problem. This is a cardiac situation. Now, there is a possibility that this young man was vaccinated in 2021, and then had a booster last year. We don't have those vaccine details. But what we confirm would be an autopsy. And not a simple autopsy, but a special staining autopsy. That would answer your question. Apart from this, there is other data also. We have data from the Japanese, which has been published in
But Dr.
Radiology.
Nataraj, can I interrupt you here for a minute?
Please,
Can
yes.
I just interrupt you here for a minute and ask you, hasn't the ICMR come out with a study ruling out any link that COVID and its vaccines could possibly have with heart situations?
Well, the answer is no. There is a study which has been published, which had about 67 to 69 authors, and this was published in their own journal. I forget the name of the journal. The study was not based on autopsies. It was based on what is called verbal autopsies. It was retrospective. We have no confirmation whether these people died suddenly or did not die suddenly. And these what's the word? These limitations are revealed by the authors themselves in that paper, because I've gone through that paper in great detail. That paper is a very skimpy paper. It does not answer our question that whether people are having myocarditis or not. Now, I have published a case report, which was published in the Case Reports International Journal. This was published last year in June 2023. This is a very interesting case. I will finish this in about 10-15 seconds. We have a middle-aged female who was hypertensive, who came to me with chest pain, which was rather atypical. Her ECG was normal. Her echo was normal. So I subjected her to a treadmill test. Now here, something very interesting happened. She had, at peak exercise, a ventricular couplet, which means she had a very short, a very brief episode of a ventricular arrhythmia, which can be dangerous. And because of that, she underwent a coronary angiogram, and the angiograms were normal. So then we had to keep her admitted because she'd had an angiogram done. And at about 11 o'clock in the night, she complained of chest pain. The resident doctor called me up. I said, look, maybe there's nothing there because the arteries are normal. But at that point of time, she had a Holter attached to her, which is a 24-hour ECG recording. The next morning, when I assessed that 24-hour ECG recording, I found, to my horror, that when she had the symptoms, she was having a short run of ventricular tachycardia. So therefore, I put her on a cardiac MRI, which showed us a scar tissue. So now we add up all these facts together. We have a middle-aged female who's been vaccinated in 2021, has had 2 shots of the AstraZeneca vaccine, has a booster in 2022, and following that, she has a scar. And that scar is arrhythmogenic. And if she exercises, she will throw a ventricular tachycardia, which could be lethal.
Okay. So, Dr. Nataraj, then in short, what you are saying is, in the last 3 years, the sudden heart issues, the heart attacks, the collapse of young people we are seeing is linked to our COVID vaccines. That's what you're saying. That's essentially what you're telling me, despite the fact that ICMR in a study is saying that there is no link. You're saying that that study is skimpy. Can I just get in Dr. Sanjay Sood here? Dr. Sanjay Sood, the interesting statistic that Dr. Natarajan is pointing out to, and something that we are putting out as well, is that we have seen a sharp spike in younger people dying because of heart attacks or cardiac arrests in the last 3 years or 4 years. Now, while he may be linking it to the COVID vaccine, the fact also is that these 3 years that we are, not the last year, but the last 3 years that we've been talking about, have been very stressful as well. People have lost their jobs. Many people may not have gotten back their jobs. There were other stresses of kya hone wala in the 2 years of lockdown. Is that something that could have contributed to the figures that we are seeing on our screens?
Absolutely, that's a great observation. As far as the vaccine is concerned, I'm not very sure because the ICMR study has its own advantages. They don't link the vaccine with the heart attack, but what the viewers really require is to know that sudden cardiac death, like the case it happened, and in many 10 or 15-year-olds often, which is reported in the media, or 20 years old, sudden cardiac death doesn't mean heart attack. First, that fundamental has to be clear. See, the many times, especially in younger individuals, maybe less than 25, 35, this is a gray area about 34, and who's a tech guy, probably going through big stress. So there is a kind of an intermediate area. But otherwise, in younger population, see, you may have hypertrophic cardiomyopathy where the heart chambers enlarge. Then you may have a blunt injury. Then there is a long QT syndrome where the genetic problems can be there. So there are many other reasons for, especially in the, there might be congenital heart disease, which has never been diagnosed. Please understand one thing, all over the world, there are about 50,000 to about 80,000 sudden cardiac deaths in younger people involved many times in competitive sports. So especially, so please do not equate it with heart attack, but here this guy is, it's 34. So what you said, stress. Now the second problem is, many times, and even the American Heart Association does not recommend any testing for people who are not participating in competitive sports and do not have symptoms of disease. So because many times in the Italian study it was found that many times they were overdiagnosed. So now the big question is, what do you do? So the best thing, see, first we have to understand we are going in we are moving towards a capitalist economy in a very fast pace, like driving a Mercedes. And we are going to have some problems because we are unable to cope with that story. In India, you are not secure in your jobs. Many times you are not eating healthy. There are lipid problems. There is hypertension problem. So there are many other issues which need to be taken care of. So we assume this guy was not diagnosed. Probably he did not either have symptoms, or if he had symptoms, he did ignore them. Many times the symptoms come about 24 hours earlier, but we cannot, we do not have that information. But the message for the people is, do not get scared by the hype in the media, because her sudden cardiac death is not heart attack. But then what do you do in such a situation? Eat healthy, do not smoke. Please, I think the viewers would be very happy to know that at least maybe 40 to 50% of the heart attacks, if it was a heart attack, can be prevented by just simply not smoking. And now we are in a current era where even the girls, ladies in our countries who were not smoking so much in the urban areas, they have also made it a fashion statement, whether to lose weight or just a fashion statement. So smoking, just remain away from smoking, eat healthy, and keep your lipids, blood pressure, sugars in check, and just take and exercise. Physical activity can prevent 20 to 30% heart attacks. But these days we hardly have any time for this. See, unaccustomed exercise. Somebody could be having a CAD, maybe in such a case, not manifested, but at times it leads to irregular heart rhythms, which can lead to a chaotic ventricular fibrillation, where the heart is not beating properly, and it can cause sudden cardiac death. But what is important, a big message for the community, for the country, for the people all around. See, if you find somebody suddenly collapsing on the floor, please just do CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Give effective compressions on the chest, and which is about at the rate of 100 to 120, and that is very important. You can save huge number of lives. Maybe you can use AEDs at airports, malls,
but in this case CPR was done.
Nothing to be scared about. Just keep yourself healthy, and that is what is important.
Okay, you're telling us not to be scared.
Yes.
You know, you're telling us not to be scared, Dr. Sood, and I understand you asking all of us not to panic. But when you see what we are seeing on our screens of a young man simply collapsing on a cricket pitch while playing cricket, you know, it does trigger some degree of panic. You're telling us not to smoke. That is a very good advice. But what do you do if you live in a city where just simply living in the city and breathing its air means you're smoking some 30 cigarettes a day? Also taking away from this conversation what Dr. Natarajan is saying, that this very well could be, this could very well be linked to the COVID vaccines that we have taken. An ICMR study is denying any link, but Dr. Natarajan is telling us there is enough and more data from across the world that clearly points to it. Gentlemen, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much. This has been an enlightening chat. And I hope what we are showing on our screens is also a cautionary tale. Dr. Deepak Natarajan, thank you very much. Dr. Sanjay Sood, thank you very much for joining us as well. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm slipping into a quick break on the show. Coming up next, why is the Congress saying Ram Ram to the Ram Mandir? Do stay with us.